Hello and welcome to Introduction to Interchanges, part of my ChipNRat Introduction to series. Today we're going to be talking all about the very basics of interchanges on city skylines. In front of me right here is hopefully an interchange that you're pretty familiar with, the basic Cloverleaf design that comes as one of the set interchanges that you can build without having to design it yourself. But let's talk about what an interchange is. There are two main types of interchanges. There are service interchanges and system interchanges. This cloverleaf is acting as a service interchange. It is taking people off of a freeway or a highway system, and it is dumping it onto a main road in the city. Service interchanges are what take cars from the freeways to your city or your town or, whatever other local roads there are. The second type of interchange is a system interchange. This takes cars from one freeway or highway system to another highway system. As you can see, there are no exits here. It's just people going from one freeway to another in a nice fluid motion. Depending on the kind of traffic or how heavy and also how much land you have, is going to partially define what type of interchange you use and also where you're going to use system interchanges and service interchanges. As you can see, there are many different types of interchanges that I've laid out here. This is not a comprehensive list by any means, but hopefully you're familiar with some or even all of them. And we'll go through the different main types and how they can relate to your city and your design. In front of us, we have four types of intersections that are provided to you by City Skylines by default, so hopefully you're familiar with them if you've played City Skylines at all. We have the large roundabout, the small roundabout, a full cloverleaf or just cloverleaf, and then this T-junction here. We're going to break these down into a few distinct categories to kind of keep it simple. Depending on how you want to define it, there can be as many or as few categories as you want. I think it's useful to keep it down to about 4 or 5 main categories and then define everything based off of those main categories. The first main type of interchange, and the one that I think almost everyone is familiar with, and it's one of the default ones in City Skylines, and also one of the first created, at least in the United States, is the Cloverleaf Exchange. So called because when it's laid out in a 90-degree pattern like this, it looks kind of like a cloverleaf. You also have a 45-degree cloverleaf here, just as an example of what else you can do. It has lead roads in and lead roads out to kind of help offset some of the issues with the cloverleaf, but they're virtually the same. So the big advantage of a cloverleaf is it's very cheap. It only has one set of bridges, and everything else is placed on the ground. It also is a very basic interchange design. You can add these lead roads in and out on the side to help offset some of the disadvantages. There are two main disadvantages with the cloverleaf, and one of them you can see being demonstrated right here. You have people coming in, and then they have to merge out. At the same time, you have people who want to leave who have to merge in and go on that road. This leads to a lot of slowdowns and traffic issues. The other main disadvantage of a cloverleaf is it takes up a lot of area. You can see compared to even this gigantic roundabout, it takes up almost the same amount of land space. If you're in a city like Tokyo, London, or New York, you do not want to use cloverleaf interchanges because they are big, they are bulky, and land is expensive, whereas bridges might not be. The second type is a derivative of a cloverleaf called a partial cloverleaf, or a ParClo. You'll often see these in city skyline streams to help save some space and mitigate some of the issues with the cloverleaf design. The aforementioned biggest problem with the cloverleaf design is what's called weaving, where you have people who want to leave at the same time you have people who want to enter. The partial cloverleaf, while it doesn't allow you to leave in every direction with a slip lane, it does allow you to leave in most directions, and using either traffic lights or yield signs can get you going in every direction. But it does mitigate the weaving problem where people are merging in to enter the freeway and merging out to leave the freeway at the same time. That's the main advantage of the partial cloverleaf. You can see right here, if we were to follow traffic, you have an exit lane here that goes both right and left, allowing you to go in both directions on this main road. And then you have people merge in this way and people merge in this way from the main road, depending on the direction of travel they were going. and that does not interfere with the traffic that is continuing along this way, other than they might have to merge in at some point down here. But you don't have people trying to exit and trying to enter at the same time. These are just a couple of different variations of the partial cloverleaf. If you look up partial cloverleaf or ParClo online on YouTube, on Google, you'll find dozens, if not hundreds, of different variations that are different shapes and sizes for whatever your city needs. And they can be quite compact. However, the more compact you make these turns, just do be aware that that is slowing down traffic, the same as the cloverleaf design. It's difficult to describe the last main categories without a comparison to something else, and elements of each of the last categories also exist with the partial cloverleaf and the cloverleaf designs. The first main category is what is called a stack interchange. It is so called because there are multiple stacks or levels to the interchange. Usually it's defined as a stack if it has 3 or more levels. If you look up stack interchanges, there are stack interchanges up to 6 different levels tall because they use HOV lanes or truck only lanes, or they just want a U-turn or different things. It basically depends on how much money you have, how much traffic you need, and what directions everyone needs to go. This is a 3-level stack that is also known as semi-directional. Semi-directional means that in order to get to the direction you're going, you don't necessarily start out going the way that you need to go in the end. What I mean by that is, let's say you need to turn left from this road. In order to go left from this road, you first have to go to the right, and then you end up entering the left-facing road from its right side. In a directional interchange, such as this one, in order to go to the left, you start out going to the left. In order to go to the right, you go to the right, and in order to go straight, you go straight. This diamond kind of weaving interchange is found in Texas, and it is known as a directional interchange, because no matter which direction you are coming from, in order to get to the direction that you need to go, you start out going that way. The main advantage of this is you don't have to swing wide, so it costs less in terms of road design. However, the main disadvantage is you have left-handed exits and left-handed entrances. Another common semi-directional interchange is the trumpet, which you've probably seen if you've looked up City Skylines interchange design at all. This is a semi-directional because in order to go left when you're traveling this direction on the screen, you first have to exit right, and then you do a full turnaround, and then you end up going left. However, if you are coming this way, in order to go right, you do just turn right. So it is semi-directional because some of the directions, you initially turn that direction to go that final direction. Another one of the common categories that you'll hear be talked about is a windmill, which might look something similar to this, also known as a turbine exchange. If you notice, this could also be classified as a stack exchange. That is also a semi-directional interchange, because in order to go left, you first turn right, and there are multiple levels to this interchange. It is not a cloverleaf, it is not a partial cloverleaf, but it does match some of those other categories. So what I'm getting at here is interchange design is complicated, and oftentimes you can define an interchange by multiple aspects, and not just one single thing. Lastly, let's talk about service interchanges. I have placed down a couple of specifically service interchanges. You can use a lot of the system interchanges demonstrated above to also be service interchanges to go to a main road. However, a service interchange is specifically designed to go to a main road. Some of the more common ones that you might be familiar with are this one, which is just a simple service interchange. You have an off-ramp and an on-ramp, each going each direction, with a couple of maybe stoplights or yield signs there. You have different directional and dogbone type, or even roundabout type exits that exit into a roundabout directly. Last but not least that we're going to show today is the diamond interchange. There's also a single point diamond interchange that can be used in lieu of the diverging diamond interchange, which is what this is. There are many different types of interchanges that all have the same basic qualities. This is an interchange that you can find on Steam, but if you look at it, it's really not much more than 2 trumpet intersections put together. This interchange here is just another take on a partial cloverleaf design with some fancy flourishes to make it look a little bit nicer and maybe make it flow a little bit smoother. There are also many different variations on roundabout designs for interchanges that can be used for varying road sizes or even just how compact you need it. In the real world, when designing an interchange, almost all of them are entirely custom designed, depending on the geography, the layout, what houses are around, how much traffic it's expected to hold, and a wide variety of different things, like whether or not you want truck lanes, HOV lanes, a super specific industrial exit that goes only for certain types of cars. If there's one thing to take away from this basic introduction to video, it's to look at the different highway designs and interchange designs that are available to you and not be afraid to experiment by mixing and matching different aspects depending on what you need in your specific area. This can be adding extra lanes, removing different lanes, adding an extra little loop. The beauty of interchange design is that it rests almost entirely up to you, the City Skylines player, to decide what you want in your city.